Yeah, so last week we disassembled the whole front end here. We took everything apart. That includes the shock and the spring and the spindle for the four-leg setup. Okay. Now, these are the springs that are going to be going in. Things about these springs is they're a lot stiffer than the old ones. So I'm going to have to use the spring compressors, but it's going to have to get on there really tight for it to work. Had a problem with the other side, so let's see what kind of luck I got on this side. Presses on like this, and then run it down with the impact wrench. Alright, so now that we got the spring in, we're pressing it. Took a lot of beating to get it in there, but we got it in there. What I did is I placed the jack underneath and compressed it as the compressors were on there, and then just went ahead and used a mallet to kind of tap it in and grease the bottom of the bushing, just so it would slide into the pocket. So after we do this, we're going to start to you want to put the sway arm bushing back in, and then we'll move on to the spindle. Okay, so now that we've installed the sway arm bushing, we're going to move on to installing the spindle. This spindle is from a '96. Mustang's got a hub assembly on it, which is much better than the old bearing style. The only difference is that this area here where it mounts to the ball joint is actually thinner than the original. If you can kind of see here, that is thinner just by a little bit right in this area. Okay, so to compensate for that, we've created this bushing here to compensate for that extra space that the spindle is going to be missing. This, we made it on the lathe, just fabricated it real quick so it'll work. Okay. Otherwise, you'd have to change the ball joints. So let's first install the bushing, and then after we install the bushing, we go ahead and stick the spindle on there. Okay, so after installing the ball joint here, we're going to move on to this, which is the tie rod. Okay, so you see the tie rod right here. So what we're going to do is lift it and put it in the hole. Okay, so after we lift it, put the tie rod in, put the bolt on. Just going to put this one on loosely for right now, and we'll tighten it later. So now we've reached the part where we're going to put the shock back in, and the shock actually attaches to these two holes right here, two big bolts, and then it slides up into that assembly. So let's go ahead and put together the shock assembly. It's the exact reversal of how you take it out. Yeah, let's knock it out. Okay, so you just put the bolts back in. It's got a new bolt for the top of the shock and a new bushing under there. Alright, so the hub's in there now. Hey! The compressor going in the background there. Boom! We're going to just go ahead and install the new, well, it's not new, but we just had it turned rotor. So stick that on there, sticks like that. Now usually there's a shield back here, a dust shield. I do have some, but the ones that came with these hubs were damaged, so I'm just going to go ahead and put them on after. I just want to show you guys the assembly, get you familiar with the process, and then you can deal with that later on your own time. Alright? So yeah, stick the hub's going to be on there all loose because it's actually held in place by the lug nuts. At this point, you want to install the caliper and the brake. Okay, so after installing brakes with the brake glue, okay, we painted them red. You just go ahead and slide it on the spindle. There's 2 bolts here. It's exactly like how you did when you took it off. Okay, so once the caliper is installed, you're pretty much good to go other than this brake line here that you got to hook up. This one is broke, so I'm going to go ahead and replace it. You hook that back up to the line back here, and then you tighten your tie rod, put your wheel on, and you're good to go. So that's your front suspension. Let's kind of blast through the rest of this. Alright, so we got it wrapped up here. We got the line attached now up to here. As you can see, the clip is in, calipers are on, everything's there. So yeah, just put on the wheel now and you're done. Junkyard Dogging once again. Yeah. So let's keep it grinding. Alright, so we just put on the wheel lug nuts, and yeah, we're going to lock them down and put this mug back on the ground, bleed the brakes, and we're good to go. Alright, peace.